All right, so you're going to automatically be up there. You guys start talking, okay?
Hello, everyone. I'm glad y'all were able to come and join us tonight for another edition of our Coffee and Clues. We're going to be talking about a few subjects that we spoke about in the last week or 2 or 3 weeks before we had our last Coffee and Clues. Most certainly, as always, if you would, please keep the initials and names out of the chat so that we, if anyone new's joining, that they won't be influenced or possibly about any type of persons or interests or suspects in any of the cases. But with that being said, we're going to get started with the presentation.
Maybe.
All right.
Oops. So you don't see it?
Nope. So we've got a little hiccup here.
We got a glitch.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
well, as she works that out, I guess I'll talk a little bit about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer, 20 years experience, and we'll be just.
All right. So everybody hang tight.
Yep. And if you put me back big screen, I guess, until you get it, the device is set up. All right. Well, anyway, tonight we were going to talk about everything that we've covered in the last week, from Uvalde, Texas, to that sad situation where that active shooter took the lives of all those innocent children. And then, of course, recently, what happened in Highland Park, another tragedy where an active shooter took lives of innocent while people were just trying to enjoy their day. But we'll also be covering and talking about, okay, all right. She got
the Google machine.
She got the Google machine up and everything.
All right,
but anyway,
go for it.
All right. So now that we're got that glitch out of the way, there's my brief bio of myself. Like I said, I'm retired law enforcement. Worked all different areas of law enforcement, from jail, road patrol investigations. I was an entry team leader with SWAT, a counter sniper, also a state certified crime scene tech. And this is, as I was saying, about how saddened we are by what happened in Uvalde, Texas, with all those children losing their lives, and how law enforcement failed those children. I most certainly have a strong opinion about that incident, and that we have to do better. This is a list of all the names of the children's lives that were lost in Uvalde. I won't try to say these names. I'm not bilingual, so I don't want to dishonor their names or their memories in any shape, form, or fashion. We should all think about them and honor their lives and for the sacrifice that their families are going to have to live with forever. And this, of course, is another subject matter that'll be open for discussion tonight whenever we get through with the initial PowerPoint presentation. Most certainly, we'll be talking about Evansdale, Delphi, and what they've done for my channel of the direction I wish to take this channel in the future, and what topics that we'll be able to cover, and something that I've been working on through the mapping systems, creating a database, and things I've learned as I've created my channel, and going out there and investigating, looking up for and trying to find information upon the victims, about the victims and their lives, and trying to create some data that might have an impact. And so through those investigative moments of when I was going out there trying to find all the data, I found some shortcomings within the information gathering, and I want to correct that and create an atmosphere whereas not only I as a creator, but other creators can go out there and be that their processes are easier for them to find information, be able to create some good content, and so that it's easier for everyone in this web sleuth community to work together. And because at the end of the day, we all have to work together. I alone won't be able to bring all the focus to all the cases that deserve to be focused on. I most certainly have focused on Delphi, and I'll continue to focus on Delphi. But I also have to figure out and make decisions of where I want this channel to go and how I want to progress. And with that in mind, that's how come I started creating this database. And hopefully this database will be able to be a great community service for each individual out there, even if you're just a someone wishes to look at some of the crimes or see what's happening in your communities, spread the words, highlights the issues that we face. Of course, with the Delphi, here's the tip line information for Libby and Abby, and most certainly call in that information if you have any of it. And then we also, for the tip information for Lyric and Elizabeth, is through Iowa. So if you have any information on that, most certainly call that tip line and give any information you have on that. But with that being said, now we're going to get into some of the of how law enforcement shares information so that they can work together. VICAP, which is the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program that the FBI and investigators started, I think it was in the mid 80s or so, that they first started working together and was trying to come up with a better way of sharing information. Well, they came up with VICAP, whereas you could fill out data and send it in, and you could share information with other law enforcement agencies. Profilers could look at the information, be able to analyze and look at and see if there's any connections or see if there was some type of commonalities between crimes across the country, which is great for law enforcement agencies across the country, but it doesn't help the citizens. And with this in mind, I thought, well, how can I, now that I'm retired, create something that will allow the citizens and the web sleuths across the country to be able to work and gather some information in a central location. And I came up with a program that will be building the database with. Mrs. Steve is currently working on the networking part of it with getting the website set up so that everyone will have access at no charge, so that even law enforcement, if they want to use it, can come in and look at the information. And most certainly anyone that wishes to look at it, you'll be able to look at it. I'll also be needing some assistance and some help whenever we set this program in place. And this program simply is going to be CiCLOPS. CiCLOPS simply stands for a Citizen Crime Link Ops System. It's something that I created and organized myself for the purpose of that we don't have access to VICAP. So what could I do as a creator to create something that would be beneficial for our the slide has.
I'm sorry?
The slide has got some glitches in it, but that's okay. Let's go back.
I have no idea.
All right. So we had a couple of
more issues.
Yes, more issues that didn't load properly on that part of it. But anyway, I will we'll address that issue and fix whatever has to be fixed about the CiCLOPS. But anyway, what this does is give an accessible database for not only you but other law enforcement officers. It's a database that links offenders targeting children and teens. And we'll have certain parameters. I had to make choices whenever I was creating this database of who I wanted the database to be able to focus on. And because when you go into what's out there now, when you're doing researches, it will come across all the unsolved cold cases within a state or within a region. And so you're looking at thousands of cases, and which is fine. But when you don't see them all placed together, and working together, you don't understand how they may possibly be regionalized, or the proximity to one case, to one county, when you're looking at some place that you're not familiar with. This database will allow me to, as I gather the information and as I look at these cases, I can look at certain areas and find the hot spots and clusters of where some of these crimes were committed. And then also within this database, there will be information about the victim synopsis, and we'll be able to create and give recognition to the victims so that people will understand the victim, their families, the crimes in some depth, and where if another crime occurs, they'll be able to look up and see, is it a regional thing, or is it just something that is a outlier, a one-time offense. But there'll be information within this database about modus operandi, manner of death, lookouts in case there is a certain individual that's within a community that is operating and being having an impact upon a community. And we'll also be able, through this program, be able to have a crime awareness for the communities so that they know that and be able to talk to their children and become aware of the situation. And on this next slide, I think it also has an issue that it didn't color out and show the hot spots.
You want me to remove it and try it again?
Yeah, let's try to reload it and get it where it's operating correctly.
This is awful.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the glitches, but for some reason, it went haywire on us on the loading part of it.
And that came directly from you, just so you know.
I know.
All right, change your slides and see what happens now.
Nope.
Did the same thing.
Go back and reload the email.
So that's what I'm going to do.
And look at it from the email side of it and make sure it's came through.
Okay, I may screw this up.
All right.
Just so you know.
But I take it I'm still here. Hopefully I'm still here. But as she works on that, we'll talk about that. The mapping system is I'll be able.
Yep, that looks fine.
Okay.
Right, so
but the mapping system will allow us that. I started on Delphi, of course, when I first started my interest into the web sleuth community. And from Delphi, when my community said, well, why don't I go out and check for some of the issues and commonalities between Delphi and Evansdale, I went up to Iowa, of course, and looked at the Evansdale murders and created the community page. I was talking to her about that. But anyway, I looked at the commonalities of the two cases and created a video for that. And while I was up there studying and looking at past crimes in the area, it most certainly, I became aware that we had
keep talking.
Issues of
Keep talking.
how we could of seeing that when I looked into the history of the crime within the area and trying to see if there's that if this offender had offended in 2017 in Delphi, and if it was linked to an offender that had committed a crime in Evansdale in 2012, there's no reason to believe that he wouldn't have created additional incidents or had been a repeat offender even prior to those dates. And it's when I was looking through that history that I found that it wasn't just simply typing in one city or one area, but that when I typed in the state and we started creating a database, there was a couple, well, there's actually 3 areas in Iowa that is hot spots and had cluster points. And let's see if it pulls up. It's reloading. So as soon as it reloads, we'll get on it, and hopefully this time it'll come through and I'll be able to show you those clusters.
And they are clusters.
But it was important for me that when I looked at these clusters and these hot spots, that I was able to go back and look at some of the cases, and the only way to determine if there is a hotspot within a state is that you have to look at the whole state, and across the state, how many crimes were committed, when they were committed, and how they were committed.
Oh, I don't know.
No, for whatever reason, it doesn't like it tonight on
Nope.
this presentation show.
All right.
But if you'll look at, there's a certain area.
You want me to try to share a screen?
Yeah.
Never. Okay, y'all. I've never done this, so bear with me.
You're going to bring it up from the other.
Okay, I'm gonna try to do it this way. Let me go back and open it.
All right.
This is just crazy. I don't know why it's doing that. All right, I'll go here. I'll go remove. I'll go share.
But anyway, hopefully she'll get it figured out in a minute, guys. I hate for that part of it to be confusing for you. We most certainly will have it figured out by next. We'll have another show Saturday night that will be bringing up.
Wait.
That will have it corrected, and where you'll be able to see our mapping. The mapping, as we go through, like I said, you'll see that certain areas of the state of Iowa and the eastern side of Iowa and areas around the area, especially around Evansdale and Bremer County, which is just north of Evansdale, that is a hot spot of where it had above average crimes and offenders within the 2 and 3 county area around that area, and which was not normal activity as far as the rest of the state. And then, okay, here we go.
All right, don't touch.
All right, she's going to share this.
Just so
Right.
it's right there.
So anyway, this is what our normal presentation was supposed to look like on CiCLOPS. And now if she'll go to the next slide, this one.
There it is. That's what I've been waiting on.
All right. And here it is. This is what the mapping will look like as far as what the hot spots are. Whenever you're looking at it on your screen, you'll be able to see
Wait a
that.
minute. Don't touch. What you doing?
I'm just going to enlarge it for me.
Oh, let me see if I can. You want me to make it? See
No.
if I can make it big.
Nope. No, that's fine. But anyway, as you can see here, that throughout the state, there's a lot of zeros. What we went in and did is we looked in, and there will be some adjustments of these numbers throughout the state. But right now, through our first analysis and our first week and gathering all the cases around the state, that you can see that consistently most states or most of the counties within the state either only had one incident of a unsolved case involving a child or a teenager. And so, and we went back to 1968. The reason we went back to 1968 on the gathering the intel for these unsolved crime is that that's going to be a one generational thing, that almost everyone out there in our audience is either within this time frame, has been born since 1968, or our parents, or someone we know closely was alive and has some history and some memories of what was going on from 68 till present day about homicides or information within their counties and surrounding counties. And so that we could all, as we work together, would be able to build some information and go out and do research and create a great database across the country. I just started with Iowa for the fact that I found the cluster in Evansdale, and Evansdale, of course, is, if you look at the green area, there's where Evansdale was. There's 3 unsolved children and teenage murders. Bremer County, which is where there was 5, and just west of Bremer, there's a county that has 1. And so out of that 9, which is absolutely blows the other counties out of the water for that one district, that was a hot spot from 1970 all the way up to present day. And there's a reason for that. There was Not saying that all these murders are linked, but some of them will be. And so this will give us an idea of being able to work together so that we can try to bring some information forward, make it whereas creators can go out there and look at this information, create some good content on it, make it where this criminal, this repeat offender is focused on, and maybe we can jot some memories and get some focus on and bring some of these guys to justice. Also, if you look down below, you can see another cluster where there's one county had 10, another 2, and 1. And so there's 13 there. And then when you go to the east side of the state, where it's orange, there's 7 there. From that county that's on the state line with Illinois, there's within, I think it's Uniontown, Illinois, they had like 18 murders in 5 years, starting in the 70s and in the 80s. And so is that going to be linked? But whenever I do the Illinois mapping system and bring it online, because I want to bring each state online with this CiCLOPS and try to have an impact where we as Web Sleuth community can look at these cases, help each other, maybe jot somebody's memory, jolt them to bring some tips and information forward so that we can have an impact and make a difference. But if any of my viewers out there within my community, if you want to help me work on this project, send me an email because I'm going to need, I can do it myself, but it's going to take me, if I do it myself, it's going to take me a lot longer than if any of you out there wish to get involved and help us create this database that will have an impact. And not just for us, but for these families, and maybe even have the impact that we need as working together, how we can solve and help and assist law enforcement. And of course, like I said, we don't have the access to the law enforcement databases, but we most certainly can create our own from what information they have released and everything. But that at the end of the day is where we want to go with this. And I most certainly appreciate your attention on this. I'm sorry for the issues that we had with that, but don't know for what reason it did it, but we'll get that corrected. And so now we'll go back to our regular scheduled program. And if any of y'all have any questions, we'll get to them and answer them.
All right. So let me go back. Hopefully I can work this. All right. Let's see here. Good evening. Good evening. Hey, y'all. Sean Auntie. Hey, Steve. Hope you and your wife are well. Hey, everyone. Y'all are so sweet. All right. Bible group, how about that thumbs up? Let's see here. This just cracks me up. Oh, Molly. Darn Google machine's giving you trouble.
It is.
It gave me some more fits tonight. I have not had that before. All right, let's see here. Shane, whatever direction y'all are going, I'm there. Great channel. Thanks, Shane.
And most certainly, Shane, if you want to get involved and it's not that you will be full-time committed to it, but you commit as much as you want to, because we'll work together. I'll work with anyone out there that wishes to help serve and get these predators of our children and spotlight them and try to bring them to justice. Like I said, there's a lot of effort that takes to go out there and create these databases. And if you want to work on your home state, we'll work on your home state. If it's already being worked on, we may team up that several people within their home state will work and create that database so that we can quickly get it online as soon as possible. Because most certainly I won't get all 50 states involved. And most certainly if there's other countries, I don't want to keep anyone, any information. If there's a repeat offender and a predator of children out there, I most certainly want to be able to bring focus to those cases. And whereas we can apply pressures and knowledge and for the communities to be able to work together and get these people off the street.
I love this one. the Bible group. Get your coffee brewing. It's going to be a good one.
Well, it was aggravating there for a
It
few
was
minutes.
an aggravating one. All right. Support with Steffa. Shane, me too. Team, Mr. and Mrs. Steve, will ride that bus.
All right.
Love you, Steffa.
Thank you. And also, I have a lot of great YouTube channels out there. I got Steffa. We got Sunshine Army out of Florida. We have we got Marvin Frank.
Randy.
And we got Randy. We got also It's a Crime and Shame. Kristen. There's so many out there that if I've missed some names, I'm sorry. Fig, any of y'all, most certainly appreciate everything y'all have done for me. And like I said, we want to help each other and try to bring some solidarity to this web sleuth community so that, let's get something done. Let's, like I said, our slogan is, let's make a difference. And there's only one way of doing that, and that's working together.
Molly, database will be fantastic. Good idea. Look forward to it. Will be a great resource for people. Paper Chaser 29. I truly appreciate the integrity you're investing in this channel. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Or ma'am.
Or ma'am, that's correct.
Paper Chaser 29.
Yeah.
Don't pick them.
I know.
I'm gonna get him. All right.
In trouble already.
See, that didn't take long. LEH, this is a great idea.
Thank you. But like I said, I tried to, when I was looking at it and seeing the hardships I was having and watching other creators and channels out there, and when you look at and trying to find and locate this information, it's fine when you have government access. You can simply, GCIC and NCIC, it's a simple process of typing in names or contacting certain agents and certain agencies to pull databases. Not so much in our world. And so if we can have an impact on that, we most certainly should try.
All right, Steffa, very interesting. It will show trends in crime similarities.
Exactly was the purpose.
Just like Iowa jumped out and bit us.
Yeah, when I looked at Iowa, I said, we got issues around Evansdale. But I didn't realize that until I didn't realize how many clusters or hot spots there was in Iowa. And some, like I said, not all of them is going to be linked, but they will be some of them.
Molly, looking forward to this database being able to look for similarities, patterns, etc., consolidated in one place. Yes, ma'am. That's the goal. Shane, quality idea. Olivia, awesome idea for a program, Steve. Let's see here. Shane, it would help if you had more information like cause of death, murder weapon, etc. Make it a lot easier.
And actually, part of the program will be that, because in some of the code cases, and so when some of the databases I found, like I think it was iowacodecase.org, you can look at it, that they have certain details within the highlights and information on the crime that it may say strangulation, gunshot, but we will whenever we do the mapping and the mind maps and everything, so that it's easy to understand, that we will be breaking it down to MO, manner of death, types of scenes, locations where they were recovered from. And we'll try to create as much data so that if you're looking, that if you have a crime scene such as Delphi with walking trails or creeks or bridges, that you'll be able to go to other areas and look at those. And it may take you a few key swipes, but you'll be able to get that information in hours to get that information quickly and accurately.
All right, AD. That is such a cool idea. I look for clusters and people groups, but if I could do that with location, it would be awesome.
That's the whole purpose. I hope so.
All right. Allie, was the Evansdale within the hotspots?
Absolutely. That was the reason that that first started generating the idea that, and you know, from the first start of our channel, which has only been less than
A couple months, maybe.
yeah, I think we're on week 7 now.
I feel like week 1.
Yeah, we're still learning, but the ability to go out there and search this stuff and look for commonalities was extremely difficult. And we was trying to find a purpose and which way we wanted to go. And with the Delphi, most certainly, when you have 2 young children murdered in such a manner, that was something that tugs at everyone's heartstrings. And so we saw that there was such, you know, and there's a lot of channels to go out there, and everybody working together for a common cause is what we want. But we also want to be able that all these people can work together with good information and create something that will keep the focus on exactly who it needs to be on. And that's the victims and trying to get these bad guys off the street.
Thanks, Olivia and Molly, for your vote of confidence. Y'all are so sweet. Sally Ann, Steve, will it also show the signatures, not just MO?
If the signatures are in there and we start we may be able to recognize some from some of the details, but most certainly if it's within any of the news releases, yes. If it's not and we can't establish, then no. Some signatures may or may not be there, but you're going to see, we saw, I think in one community, there was, I think there were 3 paper boys, newspaper route boys that were abducted and missing and or found murdered. And so, you know, information like that is absolutely vital. And we'll be able to see that through the timelines that in some of these cases started in the 70s. But we may see that there may be a movement of a similar case file with a new cluster starting up that in one community, it may have been in the 70s. And then all of a sudden we have a new cluster that started in the 80s. And so that most certainly may say that we have to look at, did we have a offender with similar habits and same makeup that has moved to a new area? And one of the Iowa cases, when I looked at where the victim was abducted from and where the body was found in Texas, that when I went to Texas, just within a few miles of it, there's another cluster of child murders. And child murders, unsolved child murders, is such a random,
rare,
yes,
very,
yeah, and very rare situation that's unsolved. That generally, you know, if you think back about children you may have known that was murdered. I had a neighbor when I was in high school that was abducted and murdered. And the perpetrator, the offender on that case, of course, he was found guilty and sent to death row, and he's been executed since that time. But it's such a rare thing for them to be unsolved. And so that when you do have a cluster of them, it stands out.
All right, Chuck. I believe this case will not be solved. It's sickening, but after 5 years, it certainly appears to be cold. So sad.
It meets the definition of being a cold case, but we can always, you know, keep focus on it, and we can hope that if whatever DNA they have, regardless of the type, that it is something, or whatever the partial fingerprints are on Delphi. The Evansdale case is much older, but Evansdale, we have a vehicle that was on that 3 witnesses saw. And so there's potential there also, that as I get my database done, we're going to run it as far as we can. And then I have certain information that I believe that I've got to check with Evansdale and the state police up there and see that I've got some ideas of creating a certain database that will be looking for certain vehicle information.
All right, from AD, this is awesome. This is the type of tool I would use all the time in my research. Maybe it can help LE work with the web sleuth community too.
And that's one of the things that I've tried to do as an ambassador for law enforcement, is try to look at the things since I've become involved. I didn't know that the web sleuth community, I've been out of law enforcement for a few years, but as you watch what's happening in the true crime world, and you see certain law enforcements embrace the community of web sleuths and use them to the greatest potential, and then you see some that they don't. And I mean, this is a untapped resource that law enforcement, that if you put the full power of the communities and you have confidence in them and you give them the information, they'll work their hearts off, because they don't want these. Nobody wants these type of criminals on the street.
All right, Shane. Wow, unreal. Molly, what county was Johnny Ghosh in? Oh, we looked at him.
Yes, he's.
I think he was in West Des Moines, kidnapped around 81, unsolved.
Yes, and actually, he will be in the Iowa.
Oh, and here we go. Mike Essery said Polk County.
Yes, and of course, like I said, he's in that information, and the Saturday show will be getting a little bit more details into it. I'll be looking at one of the clusters and the hot spots, and we're going to start with Evansdale and look at some of those cases that started back in 72, I believe. And the oldest case I found was 60. Well, I found cases all the way back to the 1800s. But there's nothing we can do about a cold case from the 1800s.
I tried to get him to look at one from 1912, and he didn't want to.
Yeah, and and I picked 68. Like I said, that's first generational information that we can get, and many of us were alive in 68, and we already were having memories, and so some of us just have firsthand knowledge, but we most certainly were be able to go out and get secondhand information, or from the first generation of people that were alive and have memories from 68. And so that we most certainly can have some type of impact and get some good information that may not be part of the newspaper articles. It may not be part of the information that's on the that we currently have on these unsolved cases. And so we will be able to relay that information, create tips, and most certainly be able to focus and bring all those tips and give to the proper authorities.
All right. Laura Doon, Mr. and Ms. Steve, your program is so informative.
Thank you.
We hope so. AD, sign me up, Steve. This is exciting. Amy?
All right.
You're on the list.
Yeah.
Steve, are you drinking coffee at night?
Actually, yes.
He drinks coffee all the time.
Currently, I have Gatorade in this one, but I'm going to have me a coffee machine.
Look at that. He drinks coffee all day, every day.
I do. I just love coffee. But I'm going to get me a Keurig machine put right here beside the camera, and beside my computer, so I can make coffee as the show goes on.
Good night. All right. And then Mike says, I met his mom and it was heartbreaking. That's awful. All right. Andy, question. Was there a drone, as I heard Tobe got a guy with a fluid drone to fly up around 5:45 p.m. on the 13th?
I've seen that referenced in several YouTube creators' channels about the drone, and that it flew and they didn't see any information. And there's been debates since then about the person flying the drone saying that if the bodies had been there, they would have found them. I don't know if that's rumor. I don't know if that's true. I have no idea about that. But most certainly, if anyone, whenever I speak to Randy again, I'll try to get that information and find out how truthful that really was, and any other information I can get about that drone.
All right. Molly, love to help. This will be a great resource, and it's a big job. Yes, it is. Glad to have you on board. Sean, love the conversation yesterday, Steve. Hope to talk to you again about Delphi. And
yes, Sean, and in Pennsylvania, if you wish to help in there, if you can, I most certainly will appreciate any help that you can do on any of that. And I enjoyed the conversation and coffee also. All
right. And Molly, at Mike Johnny Gosh was the first true crime child kidnapping I was aware of. I was a little younger than him, saw it on the news, scared me to death. Very sad, his poor parents.
Absolutely.
Can't
All of them
even
are
imagine.
heartbreaking. All of them heartbreaking.
Can't even imagine. All right. Andy, do you know the name of the girl Libby was arguing with? KG said that they were, but didn't give a name.
No, I don't. I'm sure it's in some of the records I have, but I can't come off the top of my head with it.
All right. Just Pam. Hello, Mr. and Miss Steve. Thanks for everything you do. It's important that you bring attention to these cases.
And with the Delphi case, I want to mention that as our channel promotes and goes forth with this new mapping program, that Delphi is still going to be it. I'm going to be working with other creators such as a Crime and Shame. I'll be working with Marvin Frank, and I've got 2 or 3 more projects I'm working on with Delphi. But for us to have a great impact, that I have to figure out and focus on what direction this channel can go and have the greatest impact across the board. And there's only one way of doing that. Of course, I could sit here and absolutely until Bridge Guy is located and focus on it, and I will be doing that. But I'll be doing it through consulting with a lot of the other channels, and hopefully they'll embrace that idea and allow me to do so. And but regardless if they allow me to come in weekly or whatever, I'm going to try to as much as possible. And of course, we'll be creating new content as new information is released, and hopefully as the Delphi strategy, law enforcement strategy changes and allows me to create and understand and be able to look at it under law enforcement eyes and see what information they're releasing and how relevant it is to the case.
All right. Digital, you should look into Molly Miller and Colt Haynes out of Love County, Oklahoma.
And most certainly, like I said, if any of you out there are from any of these states, Oklahoma or otherwise, get with me and let's talk about the strategy and organizing and building up a database from each of these states. Because the more that we work together, the quicker we'll get a larger imprint across the country, the quicker the other creators will be able to go out there and look at these cases. Hopefully they'll make use of this resource. And even if they don't, we as a community most certainly take this information, share it with other people. Let's get everybody to grow, get all these YouTuber channels to grow, because like I said, when we become one entity and working together for a certain viewpoint and certain goals, what we can do is, absolutely amazing, and we should try to do that.
You're not just showing this just because it's funny. This is Laura Doon. Mr. and Mrs. Steve are having great hair days on top of their detective work. Honey, it don't happen often, so make sure y'all look good, okay?
Yeah.
All right. And this is a good question for you, right? Brian James. When you find a hot spot, does that tell you anything about where the person might live, or just where they kill, or possibly both?
There's certain rules about where bodies, dump sites, and where they're located and found, that if they're ever abducted or they're missing for several days or months or whatever, and when body is located from a different area of an abduction site, there's certain rules that it does tell us about the geographical profiling and how you might be able to use that information. Just like with Evansdale case, it wasn't just by chance that whoever kidnapped those 2 innocent children took them to Bremer County up there at the 7 Bridges Refuge. He had knowledge of that area, and there's only one way you get knowledge of that area. It has to be an area you have been in, have visited before, familiar with, where you feel safe at. And to feel safe at some places that, just like you have certain places that you go on vacation to every year that you enjoy going to that area. You feel safe going to that area. Well, these psychopaths and these animals, they look for safe grounds too, but for a much more evil purpose.
All right, from Andy. My mate's a psychic. I asked her randomly, told him basics. He does not live in U.S. He said the uncle or the blind girl side knows more or idea.
And
could be.
I never worked with a psychic, so I know nothing about those.
We might have to work on that.
Yeah. Oh, I'll take help from anybody. I don't care.
No kidding. All right, the Bible group. Steve, your thoughts on Robert Cremo and the 4th of July shooting?
Yeah, the Highland Park. Like I said, there's a great disconnect with our youth and firearms and whatever this country is coming to, and I just don't understand. And we're going to have to do something about it. And I don't know what the final issue and what the best answer will be, but it'll be most certainly debated for years and years. And I have a certain idea of how it should be handled and how to make an example of these animals, because there's nothing that this shooter, this animal, can ever do for this world. There's nothing that he could ever pay back or do or create that will excuse the actions that he took that day. And I have absolutely no use for them. They're just animal. They're a waste of anything and everything. I don't even classify them as animal. It's just evil.
All right, Molly. Hot spots could really help, like I-45 in Texas and the highway in British Columbia, Canada, where so many Indigenous women have gone missing over about a 70-mile stretch. Hot spots are important.
You're absolutely correct. I mean, like I said, it's places that if it's a hot spot, it's because there's a certain predator type that lives within that community. And when he sees opportunity, he takes it.
And Sally Ann, thanks for bringing more attention to the Evansdale girls. All right, here's a question. Sees through. Do investigators ever talk to ex-investigators to get an opinion or advice, etc.? Or is it the norm for info to be held close to the vest, as Carter would say?
I don't know what Indiana's policies are, but, there's always, that you look around, and I worked with some guys that were through my career that were absolutely brilliant, that they could look at certain patterns and recognize certain issues. And, I've been amazed, I'd be standing there looking at something for a few minutes and look at them and mention their name. And they look at it, say, instantly recognize for what it was, and quite impressive. And so you never want to throw away any knowledge, or there's a lot of information and a lot of training in some of the retired law enforcement personnel out there, and there's certain departments that they embrace, whereas the retired law enforcement that when they leave the force, if they want to come back in and work just the cold cases, there's several departments that I know of that actually embrace that idea and allow that to happen. And because they have free time, free hand, and they have great minds. So absolutely, sometimes it's done, and sometimes it's not.
All right, Andy. Ellie should give more details, or if the girl's phone, as some say, was pinging around town, then the phone found by the drive was planted.
All plausible.
Yeah,
it depends upon. It just depends upon the killers.
Okay, and Shane, Andy, it's the ski mask girl. I think Steve is going to do a show on this in due course. It's part of the Delphi investigation that needs clarity in a big way.
Yes, actually, I spoke with It's a Crime and Shame, and she had a lot of information on that. And I'll be getting with her actually after this show. When our show ends tonight, Deb and Adam are sick, and so Sonny was gracious enough to ask me if I wanted to come on, and I most certainly will do anything and everything I can to bring focus to any and all information to any type of case or whatever they want to work on.
And Deb is in your chat, so I hope you're feeling better, Deb.
Yes, yes.
All right. So, AD, we might have come across the same cluster in Texas. I started mapping it today.
Yeah, is it right there at the Panhandle in the corner?
All right. And Steffa, when a case has gone to trial and verdict has been determined, is it possible to get photographs of crime scenes using a FOIA request looking for trends?
The Freedom of Information, I don't, that still is part of the court records. And it depends on what the judges want to do and how they want to handle that. But you most certainly could request from the courts and let them, see if they're going to publish or not.
Here we go. Bounced it again. Golly bum. All right, here we go. Slowly but surely. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. Sally Ann. Yeah, Indiana seems to make you fight for any info. Hold it tighter than a. Wow. Okay. Let's see here. Sean. CiCLOPS will be the foundation to build an army to fight the evils in our country.
I absolutely hope so. And like I said, I was just trying to figure out a way that we could be more effective and not waste time in searching for certain information. Might as well put the effort forth all at one time and create something that's workable for everyone.
Okay, now this is a little off topic, but if you're the praying kind, we're requesting prayers for Doug in North Point. He is a YouTube creator that was beat to death by another YouTube creator, and they were able to revive him. I hope nobody comes to beat you up. I'd have to hurt him.
Yes, yeah. She's the my protector.
Don't be messing. See? All right, let's see here. Shane? I'm drinking coffee and it's 2 a.m. here. I'll regret it when you're gone.
I'll be drinking coffee at 2 a.m. too.
It will be too.
Yeah, that's about 5 hours from now, but I'll be drinking it at 2.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. Let's see here. Jason deserves to be charged with attempted murder. I guess Jason's the one that beat him up.
I had heard. I don't know what the status of he condition is currently.
All right, Molly, I can help in Missouri.
Absolutely, thank
Yay.
you. Just send me another. Well, I've got your email, but send me another email and let's set up a date and time, and I appreciate that.
All right, Steffa, do you think Johnny Ghosh is alive?
I'm building a database. I have no idea of all the circumstances. And as I go in and highlight certain areas and some of these hot spots, I'll have more information on that at that time. But currently, I don't have enough information.
All right. And Digger, how about the case up here in New Hampshire? We'll have to look. We haven't got to New Hampshire yet.
No, but Dave, if you know anyone, and that's something else for my community out there, if you're, and I know that there's a lot going on in people's lives across the country where, it's hard times and certain things. But if you're not able to help, most certainly that is not a problem. But if you know someone, you have a family friend, you have someone that has showed interest in this, tell them about this situation and tell them about this program and have them get in touch with me. Because like I said, I don't care who I work with. And I don't care who gets the credit for it, as long as someone is put in jail that is a predator. And that's what we have to work for.
All right, Sally Ann. Steve, cold case investigations, Chris from the interview room would be a great source for you too. May help to get in contact. Just a thought, Summer XLE.
Sure. If anybody has any link,
great.
if anyone has certain links, I don't know everybody out there in the YouTube world, the creators and all of this. I don't know who the quality channels are, but most certainly, if you have someone out there you think I need to get in touch with, or if you think they need to get in touch with me, most certainly link us up one way or another and have them contact me, or I'll contact them. And because, like I said, at the end of the day, we just have one purpose in mind.
All right, Molly. At Steve, your LE input from your channel will be very helpful for helping the public and other LE to potentially solve other cases, get some new ideas, viewpoints, maybe.
That's what we're going to work for.
All right, let's see here. All right, this is from Molly. A serial rapist in St. Louis who liked to spend winters in Arizona was caught via geographical profiling in STL, as well as finally a match from DNA in a rape case in Arizona. Very cool how they caught him.
Absolutely. Like I said, what is committed in one area, when they go to another area, if you have a similar crime, then you most certainly have, it will work.
Steffa says Profiling Evil is another great resource. All right. Deb, love that idea. Let's see here. All right. Mike, I grew up in a town of 800 people in Iowa when a young girl was abducted and killed. The killer was caught, but he was a part of the search party. Ooh, that is creepy.
Yep.
Let's see. Have they ever tried to talk to other killers in prison to help identify potential suspects?
Yes. Even Ted Bundy, he attempted, and he was interviewed about the Green River Killer. And but absolutely, as the behavioral science units and the FBI and everything, as they first started building these profiles and trying to understand serial offenders, that they spoke to these guys, and they went back and spoke to them again. And they, when they create profiles now, it's the mathematics of statistics and looking at that. When they say some person, although it may not be an exact match, they will play the numbers of what other killers that are within a certain profile, certain personality, that committed certain signatures at a crime scene. And they look at those, they analyze it, and then they build that profile on that information, which is how vital the information from the actual crime scene is. We won't have all that information, but there's some other information that will signal out certain individuals.
All right, this is a good one for you. At Stephanie, if a person wants to research cold cases, where do we start?
Well, find you a case that you're absolutely driven by the heart to work on, and then and work on that one case. Understand, learn everything about that one case. You'll recognize certain issues either through the social media where people are, and you'll get tied up, and you'll have information from rumor mills, but you'll have the news releases from law enforcement, and just build you a great database and learn everything about that crime scene that you can. Then look at everything and try to build an understanding of that victim, because understanding the victim and the victimology of how that victim daily life made them cross paths with a killer is absolutely vital. And so building the database of the crime scene itself, and then building the database on the victim, and seeing where the paths and the hobbies or habits of that person, and not just the day of the murder. You have to understand that victim days ahead of their encounter, maybe weeks or months, because we don't know exactly when that victim became targeted. Were they targeted months ahead, weeks ahead, or 5 minutes ahead? And and so that has a great impact on working a case.
All right, and let's see here. Now this one here is trying to dig a little deeper, so think about it before you answer. SP74, Steve, do you and at It's a Crime and Shame have the same POI? You got to answer. I put it on the screen.
Yes. No, we have a different POI, and even if we had the same POI, I'd give you the same answer. No, we have a different POI. I'll never tell who my POI is for the fact that I don't want to influence anyone just due to mine. But I'll carry that one until, and I'll tell you the truth, because several people out there know who a POI that I have, but and they'll tell you either and they'll keep me honest, so because they know. But not that I'd lie to you anyway. I ain't got anything to lie. I've been wrong before on cases I work, but I just played the numbers and I did a profile, and I have a certain POI, and I'll always be the POI. But I have different POIs for different. I will tell you this, because as a investigator working, that if this is a random killer and a random murder, such as a serial killer, that POI would possibly be different than if it's certain other type of motivation for that killer. But there's several different motivations. Now, regardless if the POI is different, their personalities will all be the same. That this person that did this to Libby and Abby, they're a psychopath, and they share certain common characteristics.
All right, from Steffa. My first case I covered on my channel was Xavier Harrelson in Iowa. My heart is with that boy. I still think it's related to Molly Tibbetts killers.
Like I said, I think in our initial investigations, we got something like 50, maybe,
gosh,
unsolved cases involving children and teenagers.
It was crazy.
In Iowa. And so looking at them, I can't remember all the names, but most certainly I'll look at some of those. And
it's just crazy. All right, let's see here. Of course, it jumped again. All right, here we go. I don't know why this thing bounces around so much.
I know.
Wanda from Missouri. I live in Lebanon. The man held a woman in a cage. They videotaped.
Oh, yes.
Yick. Ick.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There's absolutely evil out there that whatever, and what these animals will do to their victims is absolutely horrifying. And it's worse than any horror movie you can, create. But
that's gross.
True evil is out there.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's see here. SB74, how cold does a case have to get typically before Ellie will release all the information?
There's cases 30 years old and they ain't released all the information. Sadly, I'm always against that we that law enforcement, let's not take the information to the grave. That at a certain point, we need to get that information out there to the public and let them at least get the killer identified. There may be a point that they say, well, it will harm the case of putting him in jail. Well, do we want a killer walking the street, or do we want a killer identified? I most certainly would love to know an individual that, okay, we can't never take him to trial, but I most certainly would love the conversation with a killer that I knew that he was a killer, because we'd have spend some quality time together.
Yeah. Sally Ann wants to steal your coffee machine.
Yeah.
That won't work,
No,
Sally.
I have several coffee machines.
They're everywhere. Let's see this. Thanks, Mike. Smash the like button. Appreciate that. Let's go. And then Steffa follows it with, let's get 100 likes, y'all. We got 93 in chat. Get the thumbs up. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate everything, everybody that comes forward every week and sees these shows. But like I said, get the information out there. Let's share it. Let's try to have an impact that's positive on our community.
This is a great question. Sees through at Steve. If you could get the Delphi case for 5 minutes only, what is the first thing you look up?
It would be in the crime scene. It has to be that crime scene. The crime scene will tell me so much about the motivation, and tell us so much about the animal that committed that crime. And of course, I'd like to have the other 40-something seconds of that video. But the crime scene, having a video and audio is so rare, and most certainly, evidently, it hasn't played a part in it. But from what the prosecutor Ives said that was within that crime scene, that there were some key, interesting oddities. That is what will most certainly be a driving force of what evidence there was and what type of person we're looking for.
All right, you are done.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate everything that y'all, your attention tonight. And like I said, send me those emails that if you want help on this, the quicker that we can get this database up. And it's going to take, like I said, she's still working on the
Website.
Yeah, the websites, and trying to figure out exactly what will be the best way of creating and maintaining a database. So any of you guys out there that are really good on these Google machines,
You better hurry.
But we're going to be ending the broadcast now, and I'll see you soon.
See you Saturday.